Carrying on with looking at parables of the kingdom, thinking about the pictures, the metaphors, the analogies, the parables, whatever you want to call them, that Jesus Christ uses in the Gospels to say exactly what, not always everything about the kingdom of God, but lots of parables to tell us something about the kingdom of God. We put it together. And we're talking about the kingdom, we mean the inbreaking of the Spirit of God, which begins in our era with the coming of Jesus and will end with his coming again. It's a breaking in, it's a coming, it's an arriving for you, for your life, for your heart, for our community and for the world. What is it like then? He says this, one of my favourite parables, Mark 4:26. Jesus went on to say, the kingdom of God is like this. A man scatters seed in his field. He sleeps at night, is up and about during the day, and all the while the seeds are sprouting and growing. Yet he does not know how it happens. The soil itself makes the plants grow and bear fruit. First the tender stalk appears, then the ear, and finally the ear full of corn. And when the corn is ripe, the man starts cutting with his sickle, because the harvest time has come. This is clearly at the centre of this, is the vitality of the work of the Spirit of God in building the kingdom. We've said again and again in these parables, what must have been an encouragement to the first disciples, an encouragement to the early church, and is an encouragement to us, that this is fundamentally about what God does before it is what we do. And although the details are about what we do because we're not doing it, and God doesn't need the detail because he is doing it, that doesn't mean that the balance of power, the balance of influence, the balance of what's going on is what God is doing. At the heart of this parable, it's saying, look, in the natural world, it grows. The soil and the seed is all good, and it grows. This is before sort of biochemistry, before all the sort of coffee table science that we know about how it really works. Before all of that, for them, it just works. It happens. It grows. It's great. The story doesn't work without that, does it? Can you imagine? And a man sowed seed on the ground. He looked at it and he looked at it and he looked at it and he said, oh, that's an interesting bit of ground. There isn't a story. Nobody's going to tell it, are they? When it comes to the kingdom of God, when it comes to the Spirit breaking in, without Jesus, there is no story. That's just us. And we are no story. But he says, in the kingdom, the way it works, the divine economy chosen by God, is that you will be involved. I will not just do everything. I have chosen that you will be involved for your sake and for other people's sakes. And so it's like a man who goes out and scatters. This is not the parable of the sower, where the sower is the Lord. No, this is the parable where we are the scatterers. And we will be motivated to scatter, and we want to scatter when we knew the seed is good because we have already heard from the Lord. There's going to be no scattering, no enthusiasm, nothing unless you are already experiencing something to scatter. You know it's good seed. How do you know it's good seed? Because it says on the packet or because it's grown? You know it's good seed because you have experienced something of Jesus in your heart. Thus you want to be a scatterer. I've never known anybody who wants to be a scatterer who is not convinced of the seed. It's just a sort of program or something you've got to do or a rota you've got to be on. It doesn't work. So this morning, if nothing else, don't just think of mission, but think of, am I received the seed already? Because if you have, you know it's good and it's worth scattering. In fact, you want to scatter it. Because God says in this, look, however good the seed is, if I don't have any scatterers, it's just in the barn and it's not growing. That's an extraordinary thing for an omnipotent God to decide to tie himself down with, isn't it? But he says, I want you to scatter. It's good stuff. And we can have confidence in the scattering because it's good seed. It's worth scattering it, isn't it? I've always been enthusiastic about growing parsnips. But one of the discouraging things about parsnips is when you read about them in the books and even on some of the packets, It says parsnip seed is notoriously, infertile. You think, so put in 3 or 4 and one might come up. Great. Anyway, this year I haven't put in any and none have come up, so that's it. But it doesn't say on the packet, as you might feel listening to some people talking about church decline, the seed of the kingdom is notoriously infertile, and it will take you 50 years of prayer, fasting, and sharing the good news before one person shows the slightest interest. This is not what he says. At the heart of it, there is a vitality there in the work of God, the Spirit, the person of Jesus, and the dynamics of the Holy Spirit. And so we call to be scatterers. I like the word scattering. It's not sort of one of these high-tech sort of seed-sowing machines that go dum, 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 dum. Some of you have seen them about, Scattering is just scattering. Just think about it. Scattering. How can we be scatterers of the good news of Jesus, of what the kingdom of God is like? There's lots of ways, but think of a few, just think of a few examples. Just even on a very trivial way, Christianity in this country has become almost invisible. We keep our heads down. We live in bunkers. All right? I just think that I remember when lots of Christians used to, shock horror, wear some sort of religious symbol. No. Could offend somebody. Okay, let's do it. When somebody would wear a small cross, not a big cross, but a nice small cross, or a fish, or you had on the back of your car something, and you say, it's just, well, why not? Everybody else has got it. How many people do you see walking around with a pirate sign on them, for goodness sake? And where that's going to get us? It could get us into promotion next year. That's the biggest thing it would ever get to. This is eternal life. I'm not wearing a badge. When I was in the Boys Brigade, it took me ages to earn a badge, and then I was proud to wear it, Ask people if they'll put a sticker in their window, or a little poster at least. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. And so you throw a stone through the window or something, We are invisible. You can say, well, that's nothing. Well, you might as well do nothing then. I think so. So that we are more visible, more irritating, so that somebody knows that someone's around. It's scattering. Somebody has an answer. What's that about? What's that about? What's that about? I think so. Why not? We're trying to do it on social media as well. That's where the big action is now, isn't it? It's not tracts. It's the social media. And then scattering is what I've talked to you about before. Swish prayers. Where you're in a bus or on a train or in town, you want to be careful with this. You just look over a group of people and you just pray for them. You don't go, pray for you. This is bad. People think you're a problem. But I found this really good. And you don't need to move your lips, but you can just pray for somebody. You might pray for them in tongues, but you're just going, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And it's really good. Really good. Scattering. Just scattering. Or you might be that, Myers used to, many of you know Myers used to say, he and a few mates used to have coffee once a week in a coffee shop in Ulverston as it was, and they used to occupy spiritual space. And it was a busy coffee shop, but this was a Christian table. That didn't mean they were all shouting about Jesus, but it meant that there was a spiritual activity and a dynamic going on there, and it was just seed sowing. And you think one day somebody's going to say, it's not okay. Can I borrow this chair? Well, come and sit with us, sort of thing. It's just scattering. Or it could be that you're the sort of person who can make an offering of some way. Somebody's in a conversation, they're in difficulties, and you say, would you like me to pray for you in my prayers tonight? It's very unthreatening. It's not now, it's not here, but it's just scattering. Yeah, that's all right. Or perhaps it is that we live in a sort of way which is unambiguously Christian. Lots of good things are good, but they're ambiguous. And they make people feel that we're nice people, we Christians. but it doesn't challenge them about Jesus. But if we can live in an unambiguous way, where we serve people or do things out of the ordinary, where somebody is thinking, I don't know what it is about you, but there's something here going on that I don't understand, that is scattering. And I also believe that if we can run a church here where the gospel is preached, and especially where there is a real sense of the divine presence of God, when anybody comes in, perhaps they're invited for something, perhaps they're just passing, perhaps you're just planting this morning, I don't know. That you receive a bit of seed, that somebody's saying, I think when we do weddings and funerals and coffee mornings and all that sort of thing, is there scattering there? I think. So I would just challenge you this week to be a bit more visible and to do some scattering. And you'll say, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Nobody listens. It doesn't work. You go back to the parable of the sower. Jesus sows seed in our lives. And most of our lives are like the path and the weeds and the rocks and all of that sort of thing. He did this for us. He never said to the Father, I've seen Alastair bolt. That's a waste of time. There's no way I'm doing seed with him. He's all rock. Don't laugh. Just beneath the surface. So if he's done that for you, why are you going to say about somebody else, it's a waste of time. I can't be bothered with that. He didn't say it with us, so why should we say this? It doesn't matter really if you give out 10,000 tracts and one person is saved that wouldn't have been. So let's do some but then coming back to the centre of it, you see, he's done the scattering, then he stops. Why does he stop? He stops. Well, he stops because he has confidence that it will now grow. Coming back to where we started, you see. Not only does confidence in the seed and the earth mean that it's worth sowing, but he knows it's worth stopping. I'm confident in my sowing. I've sown it and it's good, so I don't need to do anything else. I leave it. This is not, as I say, the people who haven't sown and still leave it. I can't do anything about it. It's all too much for me, but God will do something if he wants to, sort of thing. It's not that. But I have sown, and I'm confident in the Lord, and I will not now interfere. I have confidence to stop. Now, this stopping is huge, isn't it? This stopping is a real confidence in the Lord rather than a confidence in us. On a personal level, it means that when I have sown, I don't interfere. And in my job, that is really difficult. I think the best picture is of the small child who you've given a bit of corner of the garden, haven't you? You have your bit of the garden, So you've tied it and you planted marigolds. So you put all the seeds with the 3-year-old, and you put, so-and-so's garden, and you put a thing, and all's well. Until the next morning. And next morning they're out there digging them up to see how they're getting on. That's an easy picture, isn't it? But if you don't leave it, you see, you've had a small opening. Somebody says, I'm not interested in that. And he's saying, no. Do you want to come to church? No, you don't want to say that. Have you thought about what I said to you yesterday? We're still praying for you. Sort of thing. Got a good verse for you from Leviticus. Sort of thing, I've told all my friends about you. They're praying for you as well. Would you like to come to our Bible study? We're doing the Old Testament. All these things, we're trying hard, we're moving on. The person said, hey, you go to that big church in Chapel Street. That is not an opening to say, are you washed in the blood? The answer to that is yes. We leave it. We leave it. Institutionally, though, this is important as well. Because the church also interferes. It feels in the way it needs to do for God what God can't do for himself. So it has programs. Now, I'm not saying programs are wrong, but even an alpha course is not like a sausage machine. As long as we got the course, as long as we've got the coffee, as long as we got the meal, as long as we got the groups, we will churn out so many Christians a year, you know. That is not leaving stuff, that is interfering. And I've done lots of alpha courses. The trouble is, you do it instead of sowing. And if you haven't done any sowing, the alpha course is full of church members. And some of you will know about church growth models and ways you do missions. And at the end it says what the results might be. It's like pyramid selling. We do for God what God can't do for himself. There's no leaving, is there? You've got to interfere. This man, it says in the parable, does not know how it happens. There's a degree of humility, a degree of mystery. I don't know how this happens. I don't know. It's important that we invite people to worship, but it is also true that I have known lots and lots of people who've come to church who've never been invited and who've been none the worse for it. At a more practical level, I remember I had a church, and in a circuit I was in, I'm not quite sure where it was now, whether it was in Devon or it was in Nottingham, I'm not sure. But they'd done the business, you know, they'd done everything you should do. They got the pews out, and they put a carpet in, and they got the heating sorted out, and the sound system, and they had a projector. And they said, what do we do now? They said, why isn't it full of people? We got nice comfy chairs, it's warm, and it's this, and this, and this. You know, the coffee's nice. Why aren't people coming, you know? In other words, we've done it. Why isn't it growing? The implication is that we know how this works, really. We know what you've got to do. Where the farmer doesn't know what he's got to do except do nothing at this point. This is the Lord's work. And it's not even any good having what I call using the evangelical crowbar, which is going to make sure that God does work. We're not going to have any old prayer meeting. We're going to have a prayer meeting at 4:00 in the morning to show that we mean business. And God has got to answer this. Yeah. It's good to do a bit of tithing, but you don't all need to be on social security and income support just to prove something, just to make God work. It's good to fast in once in a time, but you don't want to be starving to death just so that God's going to work. I'm interfering. I know how this works, really. I'm going to get it to work. Leave it. If you have sown, then you believe in the seed, you believe in the soil. Now, some people are not going to listen. Some people are not going to listen, but that's between them and God. When we've sown, we've sown. St. Paul talks about that, doesn't he? And not only are we not doing this, but we're freed up to do everything else. This guy's lovely, this, isn't it? He gets up in the morning and he goes to bed at night. And it says, in the Greek, there's a real sort of liveliness. He gets up, he goes... Now, this is a man in a rural, agrarian, subsistence culture. It would be silly to say the man can just leave his farm and, I don't know, go on foreign holidays and have quality time with his family. You don't do that in that sort of environment. There are other things to do. But he is not borne down by this. He is released by it because God is doing what he is doing. There's too much of Christianity has become a burden. Even if we know that sharing the good news is not always easy. But if you read those great sort of Victorian heroes of the China Inland Mission, you know, these people were in terrible conditions, scattering seed, but they are not saying in their books, oh, I thought I'd better pray again. They're not. They may be very tired. They may be very, very worn down. But these are the freest people on earth. I got up and I went to sleep. I preached and I saw what God was going to do. Christianity is supposed to be a blessing, not a burden. The church doesn't need to be bogged down with doing too much. The church does too much and achieves too little. He goes to bed, he gets up, he goes to bed, he gets up. Hey, it's growing, that's good, I'm relaxed. When I've scattered, not before. But it also means that the man is aware of what's going on, is in good shape. when he's needed. So that we perhaps retain the relationships with the people we've sown seed with, but we just continue to drink coffee with them or work with them or be neighbours to them without trying to give them a New Testament sort of thing. We are also in good spiritual shape ourselves if we aren't continually guilty about somebody not responding to God's word. And as a church, we're not continually institutionally bogged down. Sometimes the church looks like in a garden, it's sort of like a cloche, doesn't it? With plastic over it and sort of arc lights on it and special watering machines. Nothing would grow in there. Just get on. But be aware of when the moment comes. And if you are in good spiritual shape, sometimes that is a matter of prompting, not of prompting. Prompting is really helpful, isn't it? Now is the time to say another word. Now is the time to offer something. And then it says, when the time comes, well, it says in the Good News Bible, it picks up his sickle, but it says in the older version, puts in the sickle. You know, I imagine him dropping his DIY and the washing up and rushing straight out and getting the sickle, and he's right in there. Why? Because he's not too tied up doing something else, you know. He's ready for this. He's aware. And at that moment, you've got all the time you need. So what's that sticker on the back of your car there? I'm ready to say something about that sticker. It's got a fish on it, plenty to say. It's got a cross on it, it's plenty to say. It's got the Methodist Church on it, a little bit to say. But, you know, it gives you a start, doesn't it? But I'm ready with that. I'm sorry, I can't speak now. I'm just off to a prayer meeting. Sort of thing. Isn't it? I'm ready with the sickle because I'm listening, not talking. The guy said, I'm listening. I remember what you were saying the other day. Or that guy on the telly was saying, you're a church person, aren't you? What did he mean when he said that on the telly? Well, I haven't been to church too much. I've been watching the telly, so I know what he was saying on the telly. And I can say, well, actually, you got 3 minutes, haven't you? You're ready with the right word. You know? Have you got anything I could read about, Christianity? Sometimes people say, more often than not. What would you give them? Not the authorized version, do you? Perhaps you could give them a New Testament in the Good News Bible or something like this. Or what leaflet could you give somebody that would give them Christianity in 6 pages? It's not an easy answer, that. But you want to give them something. If they want to read something, give them something. Are you ready for it? Have you got it? Do we have the resources? Sort of thing. It's not difficult, is it? Or are you ready to say, perhaps we could meet up for coffee sometime? And I said to you before, he or she says to you, perhaps we could meet up for coffee and just have a chat about this. That'd be good. And you say, I'm completely solid for the next 6 weeks. This is bad news. Immediately he puts in the sickle. I'm pretty free next week, crossing everything out. This is a matter of life and death, isn't it? Or, Mabel and I have been arguing about this whole Christianity thing. Come round for supper. Let's eat together. Is it any good coming to your church then? You've been sowing a little bit. We put a flag out there which says welcome. That is seed sowing. When I came here, people thought this was a closed jail when they were going past. I know that because he said that to me. Is it okay to come on Sunday? Who is it said that somebody asked them if you needed a ticket? And you say, yeah, it's great to come on Sunday without looking at the plan. And I'll meet you outside. We're going together. Great. Not I'll come round for you to make sure you come. I'll meet you outside. Puts in the sick.